Where Silence Has Lease is the second episode of TNG's second season, an early standout with a strong Twilight Zone feel. Star Trek is a show ostensibly about exploration, driven by curiosity, but this episode turns the lens of curiosity on itself. A mysterious void appears in space, no form, dimensions or boundaries, and when the Enterprise investigates, it swallows them whole, becoming part of an experiment probing their reactions to threats, paradoxes, dilemmas, and death. It starts simple. Reversing course doesn't work. With no reference points, they can't even be sure they're moving. So to test it, they release a stationary beacon, monitoring it as it falls behind, then inexplicably appearing ahead. A Romulan warbird decloaks and opens fire, but is easily destroyed with a single torpedo. The Enterprise's sister ship, the Yamato, approaches with no one on board, a ghost ship. When Worf and Riker beam over, they're separated, each hearing the other scream in terror, and when they reach the bridge, all doors lead back to the same room. Meanwhile, contact with the away team is lost, and the Enterprise is offered a way out, but only if they abandon their crewmates. Picard, now convinced it's all a test, refuses to play, prompting Nagilum, the being behind the curtain, to finally reveal himself. No apologies or small talk, he simply states his intention to continue the experiments, to understand humanity's limited existence, aka death, something unknown to his species. He coldly estimates they will lose up to half the crew. Out of options, Picard initiates the self-destruct. When Nagilum fails to convince him to abort it by impersonating Troy and Data, he finally releases the ship. The threat passes, but it leaves us lingering on what was exposed. The Enterprise crew always identifies themselves, name, mission, and intent. They're respectful, looking for partners in peace, prepared to back off. But here they're not equals, simply specimens, baited and trapped, prodded just to see what they'll do. The episode opens with Riker participating in Worf's battle program on the holodeck, leaning into Worf's aggressive instincts and briefly threatening to overstep into something darker. Picard remarks,
"I think it is perhaps best to be ignorant of certain elements of Klingon psyche,"
setting up the premise that not all paths lead to places worth going. There are consequences. You might not like what you find. It might change you. And with this episode, we have the literal embodiment of the saying that when staring into the abyss, it may stare back. The Enterprise is changed by the incident. They lose a crew member. Their trust is shaken. Even when Nagilum lets them go, Picard considers it may be an illusion, another test. It's a sharp reminder that no matter how advanced or idealistic you may be, there are still those out there who are stronger, dangerous, and not interested in mutual exchange. In terms of plot holes, you could point to the crew not being concerned when first swallowed by the void. There's no indication that stars are still visible behind them. You'd think the priority would be knowing where the door is. There's an odd moment where Geordi remarks, like the rat says, "Keep the cheese, I just want out the trap." And then later, Dr. Pulaski says, "Rats in a maze," and Picard suddenly needs clarification. If he got it the first time, why struggle now? You could also wonder why, in the 20 minutes between setting the self-destruct and their release, Nagilum doesn't carry out his experiments on the crew anyway, or disable the self-destruct. He's clearly powerful enough. But maybe that was the point. Nagilum says at the end that there was no further need. Maybe their response to the threat of death was the final test. There's a deeper thread here, how curiosity treats life and who's granted personhood. The Enterprise seeks dialogue, respect, exchange. Nagilum observes from a distance, cold and clinical. Pulaski does likewise to Data, curious but detached, initially treating him as an object rather than an equal. Nagilum judges humanity, telling Picard, "You seem to find no tranquility in anything. You struggle against the inevitable. You thrive on conflict. You are selfish, yet you value loyalty. You are rash, quick to judge, slow to change. It's amazing you've survived. As a species, we have no common ground. You are too aggressive, too hostile, too militant." A bit like Q, But instead of a trial, he puts them on a petri dish. Sterile stimulus response. No dialogue, no respect, no chance for connection. And yet, Picard, still the explorer, reaches to bridge the gap. Despite Nagilum's judgment, blind to his own hypocrisy, Picard gets him to agree that they do share a common trait: curiosity. And that's the core of the story. Curiosity isn't neutral. It can be ethical or invasive, mutual or one-sided. Once you open the door, you can't control what comes through. Confuciasm, out.